just for the viewers here, I get an email from you guys saying, hey, we travel the country in an RV and we love to visit breweries, so we put you on a blog and here's why you want to. What was my response? I don't know whether to tell you.
He does it great.
I don't know.
You said, so you guys go around, let me get this straight. You guys go around talking to breweries and getting free beer. I don't know whether to tell you to pound sand or that you're brilliant.
I think you're brilliant.
Well,
I've made my decision.
Brilliant, so.
I've made my decision. You're brilliant.
Welcome to Stout Conversations, where every week we sit down with creative thinkers in the craft beer industry and beyond. Your hosts, Ken and April, live and work in a 24-foot RV, traveling the country in search of great stories around a great beer. This week we talk with Mike of Chattabrewchee Southern Brewhouse, America's first female-owned active-duty brewery. Not only is Mike co-owner of the brewery, but he also works full-time training U.S. soldiers, preparing them for deployment. Building community both within the brewery and the military, join us as Mike shares his passions for both.
This is the Noir IPA, which is a black IPA, as you can see here at Chattabrewchee, and we're in West Point.
West Point, Georgia.
I keep forgetting where we're at. West Point, Georgia.
West Point, Georgia. We're right on the Georgia-Alabama state line.
Which is right in your backyard.
Right.
Literally in the backyard.
The property boundary is the state line. So we tell people all the time, how do I get to your brewery? On Route 85, we're either the first exit in Georgia or the last exit in Alabama, depending on which way you're coming. So.
You were the first brewery here, right?
Yep.
And I mean, a brewery a lot of times now is a great revitalization tool for a community. One, you are providing jobs, but then you're also providing a community space for people a lot of times. I think that's a trend we've seen across breweries, especially in smaller towns, that it becomes a communal area. It's not just about coming in and drinking the beer, it's sharing time with people, and you guys are set up here to be very communal with your layout in the tap room here.
Absolutely, and that's objectively proven. Harris County Chamber of Commerce. West Point is unique in that it lies partially in Troup County, Georgia, and partially in Harris County, Georgia. And we're members of both chambers, of course, and the Harris County Chamber of Commerce kind of schooled me on breweries a little bit when they finally got a brewery. We consider ourselves the brewery for both counties, of course. 80% of all small communities with a brewery reach a certain level of economic growth and success, whereas smaller communities without don't. Right, it just adds so much more community value to a local area for us to be able to have a brewery.
Well, that said, you guys here at Chattabrewchee, you have a distinction of being not just a military-owned brewery, you're a veteran yourself of many, many years, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
By the way, I
appreciate that.
I didn't say that earlier, but now.
Well, thanks for what you guys do.
Because I know a lot of people out there that are friends of ours will definitely say thank you as well. You're a retired lieutenant colonel, Green Beret. Kathy is still active military. You're the only brewery, I believe, in the United States that is partially owned by an active female.
Right. So she's 50% owner.
Okay.
It's 50-50, her and I. We're the only brewery in the United States owned by an active duty woman.
Okay.
We've done what we think is our exhaustive due diligence. So we're pretty comfortable making that claim. So her full-time job has been for the last 12 years, Army JAG officer. So she's currently a major, serving with an armored brigade combat team. And she's overseas right now. So not just 100% veteran owned, but also the only brewery in America owned by an active duty woman. It's a distinction we think is pretty cool. How
do you end up, one, going from military to starting a brewery, and two, to starting a brewery in Georgia where, especially outside of the Atlanta area, craft beer isn't really a hotbed. Georgia is not really considered a hotbed outside of like Atlanta, maybe a little bit in Savannah.
Sure. Well, it's growing, but no, you're correct. So several years ago, we essentially came upon this building. This is where Kathy's from. That's why here in particular.
So Kathy's from this area. Grew
up
here.
So you have West Point, Georgia, and again, the state line is the property line, and Valley, Alabama. She's from Valley, Alabama. And
So she's from the backyard.
Right, so she's essentially from the backyard.
Brewery's in the front yard.
So I would say that this community does not see that distinction between the towns. I mean, it's
Right.
people travel back and forth, and Valley, Alabama is actually on Eastern Standard Time. They're not on Central.
Okay.
So if you look at the time zone map, there's this little blip, which is right here, Valley, Alabama, and it had to do with the history of the mill town. So
okay.
there were so many employees from you've heard of West Point Pepperell, West Point Stevens. Well, this is that West Point.
Oh, okay.
From that textile industry. So major employer with plants all over the place. So all of these mills were up and down the river in Alabama. So everybody had to be on the same time zone. So that's kind of a vestige of days gone by. Eastern Standard Time right here in Valley, Alabama.
Nice.
They're in Alabama. So she's from here. We came across a pretty good real estate deal for this particular property. And
this property has a lot of history to it. I mean, we got exposed to it a little bit earlier, but maybe you can...
It was part of the textile industry. It was where they would do a lot of the processing of the cotton and the textiles and things like that. And it was a 2-story manufacturing facility. And then it became several generations of all things, a furniture showroom, a furniture warehouse. And this West Point used to be a kind of like that county seat where folks from all over would come in and they would do their shopping here. And so this was Rhodes Furniture and Coleman's Furniture, and I think there's a third one in there. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. But several iterations of that furniture show and furniture warehouse. And what's been really interesting is we've had previous owners, previous employees all come in to kind of see what had happened to their building. And they're all pretty enthusiastic when they walk in and they see this, second life, third life, whatever it is now, of this building as a beer manufacturing facility. They get pretty excited about it.
I like that. That actually kind of plays into what another thing I wanted to talk about was like, we were talking earlier, you're one of the first breweries in this whole area, this whole regional area here. How hard was that how accepting were people here? Because, this is an area of the country where, like a lot of other spots in the country that come from the old style of beer, maybe weren't too exposed to craft beer. And so, there's got to be some education factors and just people learning what's this all about.
Absolutely.
Or a lot of people who don't even drink beer.
This isn't Boston. It's not Denver.
Right.
And it's not San Francisco. It's not. It's just the rural deep south. And craft beer has not taken root in this area as early as it has, say, in the Bostons, the New Yorks, etc., the urban Northeast or the West. Craft beer has been around, is much more deeply rooted. When people talk about the craft beer capitals of America today, which I would argue is the craft beer capital of the world. You go to any craft brewers conference and there's an international aspect there, and even the Germans will shake their head and say, yeah, you guys got us now. I mean, we do. Yeah. We have the highest quality and the highest level of variety. It's the way it is today. We have taken over internationally.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing. I mean, just traveling through the South and stuff, and we've been through the Midwest, down the East Coast, from Denver originally, so we like to think we know good beer. Denver's pretty high quality.
Portland, I think Denver, Portland, of course you have to throw in Asheville, Boston.
Portland.
Yeah, I mean, these are beer capitals of the world, but you guys are doing it here too.
Right. On the same quality level.
Thank you. We were the first brewery to open in this area, and there was that educational aspect because it just hadn't really taken root down here. There was obviously craft beer that was brought in from other places, Sam Adams, New Belgium, etc., but a local option that didn't exist here. And there has been resounding enthusiasm. The beauty of our particular system is people get to pour 2 to 3 ounces at a time. We serve about an ounce.
Right, here it's a little different system than you see in a lot of craft bars, where this is a self-serve,
right?
Basically,
it's self-serve.
Where you have a little card that you get when you come in, and you feed it into a little slot by the taps, and then you pick your beer, what you want, and you pour a little bit like this and have a nice taste, and then you decide if you want to try something else.
Yep, decide if you
or a whole glass.
We don't have bartenders. You're your own bartender, but we have somebody who stands up there by the tap wall, and they sit there and talk you through the entire process of brewing beer, what this different style is. But it was new. It was a very new thing. Craft beer was not something a lot of folks here were familiar with. That's not to say that they didn't want it, they just hadn't been exposed to it yet.
Right, it's not like they came out of the dark and
Sure.
didn't have any idea there was this craft beer thing. They've heard of it, they know of it.
They've heard of it, they
Maybe
knew about
some bigger ones.
So we keep our beers in mind. And by that, what I mean is what we don't have is we don't have 12 taps that are full of 8.5 or greater, 100 IBU or greater. We have a wide variety so that people can come in if they're new to craft beer, and there's some step-off beers, like we'll have some lighter Hefeweizens, some lighter blonde ales, some lighter pale ales, where they kind of incrementally step their way up to the proverbial whiskey barrel-aged imperial Russian stout with cocoa nibs and vanilla. We don't start them with that.
We like to call them gateway beers.
Gateway beers. Yeah. The stepping off point, jumping off point.
Yeah.
So.
And there's people that just like those beers.
Right. So what we find, the majority of customers will come in and they'll try 2 to 3 ounces of everything their first couple times here.
That would be us.
Yep. So they'll try, and
we like to try all these different things.
It's a beautiful serving system because folks like yourself who are very well versed in craft beer. We have BJCP judges who do the same thing as, now get this, a BJCP judge, Beer Judge Certification Program judge, will turn around and do the same exact thing that a craft beer newbie who would come in and say, I've never tried craft beer before, but I'm willing to give it. So the serving system is perfect for both of them. The judge gets to try 2 to 3 ounces of everything. The newbie gets to try 2 to 3 ounces of everything. And we just firmly believe that the customer, as a whole, just wants to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be locked into 16 ounces of this one beer, and it's $5, $6, whatever it is, and that's what you get. Here, it's you pay for what you pour for what you want. That's it.
Do you have a lot of locals though, probably, that come back all the time?
Sure.
and you keep certain beers on tap because
sure.
Those guys are drinking them.
Absolutely. And there are 2 beers that really jump out for us. There's the blonde ale. It's very light, very grainy, has a little bit of a flowery note on the backside.
And if you spent time in the South, you need those light beers.
Oh yeah,
because when it's hot here,
and it's 97 degrees, and you're walking outside and just instantly.
And 90% humidity.
90% humidity. You know, it's a great lawnmower beer, as we might call it. And it's a step up from the macro beers. Clearly, it's a high quality beer. It's an award-winning beer. It's light, it's grainy, but it's got a little bit of a hop edge on the backside. And then we have our Crow Hop IPA. Our Crow Hop earned silver medal, best IPA in Georgia. So we're very proud of that beer as well. So the quality of our beers are up there. And people realize that you don't need to be a BJCP judge to walk into a brewery and try a couple beers and realize that's a high quality beer. So we focus on a few things in particular. First, the city of West Point has good water. I mean, that can't be understated. The city of West Point, Georgia, we get our water from the Chattabrewchee. It goes into the processing plant. When it comes out, we've done the chemical analysis. We've sent it off to be tested. It's good quality water that you can brew with. Then we have a double filtration system. So we start with good water, municipal water, then we filter it twice, then we put it in, and then we have a recipe for the water before the water's added to the recipe for the beer. So we pay attention to our pH and our salts before that even, before we start mashing. So the quality of our water, pay attention to our pH and our salts, and then we pay attention to our temperatures during fermentation. And we think those 3, those three foundations, those three bedrocks of just making sure those things are in place first, will hold up the process. If the temperature's off, if the pH is off, we'll spend the time to adjust it to make sure it's where it needs to be before we go any further. It has to, right? Because at the end of the day, what goes into your glass has to be consistently high quality.
Right. And you have plenty of different styles, so there may be styles that people don't like or do like and gravitate towards, but it's all going to be good.
Right. We're small, we're rural, and we have to provide a product that's going to get the customer to come in and stay for the first visit. And then the second visit, they might go to that Imperial Stout.
I think that's a great approach for almost any brewery, though, you know, because if you jump in at the deep end of the pool with everything you have, you know, there's some people that just like a lighter beer. Mm-hmm. You know, they may not ever want to drink that great, you know, bourbon barrel aged, you know, cherry porter that's going to be coming down the
road. Oh, you're referring to? Yes.
I'm throwing some hints out there.
We have.
Yeah, you have a lot of great stuff, but
there's a distillery down the road called John Emerald Distillery, and we have a barrel swapping program. Now, this is something I didn't explain. Here's really an interesting aspect. Every brewery today seems to be, I shouldn't say every brewery, but most breweries today have some sort of barrel aging program.
Right.
So they'll take those oak barrels from distilleries that have had rum, bourbon, whiskey, whatever the case might be. They'll age their beer in it and turn around and bottle it and sell it. We turn around and send the barrels back to the distillery, and they'll go ahead and put more of whatever the next batch might be, rum, bourbon, whiskey. So now it's a brewery that does barrel aging. So for example, you would refer to, we have a whiskey barrel, that 15-gallon whiskey barrel that we put our cherry smoked porter, cherry chocolate smoked porter. No, that's not what you're drinking. That's what she was drinking.
April's got off camera right now.
So we have, right now on tap, we have our cherry chocolate smoked porter that has not been barrel aged. But we've got 2 barrels back there. One is in a whiskey, one is in I'll have to check. But we have 2 different.
I think the other one you said was rum, I believe.
It could
I'm
be.
pretty sure it was a rum.
Yes. And so after the 6 weeks, 8 weeks of aging in those oak barrels, when we turn around, dump the beer, put it into our bottles and sell it, we're then going to take those barrels back to the distillery where they'll turn around and fill them back up with whiskey.
Now, do they take that whiskey and then sell it off there? And so now they've got this.
So now they've got
kind of a collaboration.
Exactly.
So really cool.
They've got whiskey and bourbon and what have you that's been aged in beer barrels.
That's a pretty cool idea.
So it's kind of the tail wagging the dog there a little bit.
Jameson's doing that similar kind of program.
Yeah.
But you're doing it on more of a regional level or
even
more local.
Yeah,
completely
15
local,
miles
which is
down the road from
craft
us.
level. So
Yep.
that's a pretty cool idea too.
Yeah.
So do you find, like, between you and Kathy and your military background and your travels, that has had an impact or an influence on the beers that you make or the way you set up or your business style?
Yes.
Or anything like that?
Well, absolutely. As far as the beers that we've been exposed to the world's worth of beers. Mm-hmm. So one of the things about military towns is they are almost this ubiquitous standalone culture. Well, they'll have a Filipino influence, a Mexican influence, a German influence, Korean influence. So all of these cultures from around the world, plus wherever we might personally be traveling to, you always try the local fare, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll try. I've had the Hefeweizens in Germany. Wow. You know what I mean? I've had the stouts in England. I've had the pale ales in England. So you're exposed to the authentic, first-hand sources of a lot of these beers. And it certainly has just opened your mind into what resources of information as far as styles, etc. So we came in with a pretty open-minded approach, hence the reason why we went with this very unique. Again, we were the first brewery in Georgia to have this self-serve system. Well, there are 100 breweries in Georgia, and we're one of 2, I think. So that might have some influence, the fact that we were that open-minded. So we were exposed to that idea on our military travels. So there's a very direct example of how it affected our business model. The fact that we're 100% veteran owned and this close to Fort Benning, we have found a very significant portion of our business, particularly monetary wise, is coming from the Fort Benning, Columbus area. Other veterans do want to support other veteran-owned businesses. Right. So the soldiers at Fort Benning put their dollar behind us, is the bottom line. Right. And so that has very directly impacted our bottom line.
That's awesome.
I like that.
So the exposure to the technology came from our military travels. The exposure to the different styles of beer came from our military travels. The willingness to be open enough, I think, came from the fact that we're, for the majority of our adult lives, we're constantly being exposed to different things. And the veteran-to-veteran support, financial support that we get from Fort Benning.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think we find in our travels too, is when we sit down and talk to people anywhere over a beer, like you get all these different perspectives and ideas, and people are willing to listen more, it seems like, over things like that. Brilliant.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about being in the alcohol industry, you're talking about relationships with alcohol.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, yeah.
I essentially don't drink anymore. I lost a sibling, to alcohol-induced organ failure. And, very sad situation, and it kind of really made me reflect. Everybody's relationship with alcohol is a deeply personal decision. Mm-hmm. So I make alcohol. I consume very, very little of it. On average, maybe about 2 ounces a week. So I still smell, sample, taste, particularly the new beers that come out. But I personally don't drink, essentially, call it.
Basically don't recreationally drink anymore.
I don't recreationally drink anymore. That's why, you're enjoying one of the beers.
Yeah.
I've got the strawberry guava.
April forgot to bring hers up.
I can go get it, it's right there.
So, obviously, there's no judgment at all. I mean,
no, you own a brewery.
Yeah, I own a brewery. It's just, with that situation in our family, it gave me cause to reflect, and I looked at it. It is deeply personal. Whatever your relationship with alcohol might be. All right.
But our brand is Living a Stout Life, and living a stout life obviously for us means chasing beer a lot. Mm-hmm. But it's not all about beer either. It's about travel. It's about life and enjoying life. But that can be something very different for every person, I think. So what for you, Mike, is living a stout life?
For me, living a stout life is knowing that you are, I know it sounds like a platitude, but knowing that you're contributing to the world instead of detracting from it. And that's the reason why I took my job outside of the brewery. I go to work every day, and I have a hell of a commute to get to work every day.
Wait, can I confirm real quick though that you are saying that you work another job outside of you and your wife owning
Correct.
the brewery?
Kathy and I own the brewery together, and we do feel that the brewery gives a recreational opportunity to this community. And I know that our job here is providing happiness and culture and opportunity to this local community, and we're very, very thankful, and we enjoy that. But I felt that I had more to give. That I go to work every day training soldiers to go to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, wherever they might go, and at the end of the day I know I've prepared them as best I can. So I have voluntarily taken on that burden outside of the brewery, so that I can look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I did something today to make sure that I contributed instead of taking away. That really is it for me. That to me is the meaning of life.
There are new episodes with new conversations every Sunday night. Be sure to subscribe and click the little gray bell so you don't miss out. Here's your chance. Give a shout out to anyone you know in the military. Let us know in the comments below or by clicking the link in the description.
Because we can't afford to buy beer, that's what it is.
Yeah, right.
So I'll say...
And luckily there's enough of you not telling us to pound sand.
The majority of that beer is going to come from the keg and the cooler, no matter how long that line is.
Right.
Here, when you're doing a 2 or a 3 ounce pour at a time, you know, that last foot of beer line, if it's not kept chilled, that beer is not going to be chilled. It might come out at room temperature. No drinker wants that.
Right, because somebody might just pour that little bit.
Right.
And you get that little
Exactly.
bit.
So this, when you go back out, grab onto the side of the tap just like this, and you'll feel that harmonics running through. And all that is it goes into tap 1, out of tap 1, into tap 2, out of tap 2, into tap 3. It's just a continuous river of 35-degree chilled glycol.